My name's Josh Wilson, and this is my son Caleb. We have 2 dogs outside, and we've gone out to bring them in, and we started clapping for them, and when we did that, we heard wood knocks in the woods behind our house.
The creature was hairy, black shiny hair.
Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're sharing 6 of the most incredible Bigfoot encounters ever recorded. From Bluff Creek to the Oregon Coast Range, Virginia, Utah, the Ozarks, and Mount Hood. Shadowy figures, massive footprints, and strange nighttime activity leave witnesses questioning everything. Could these sightings be real? Watch closely and decide for yourself. Footage courtesy Animal Planet. Jess, a Bigfoot witness, has been incredibly valuable during this week's expedition. She put out the word across the Conservancy, gathering people who claim to have experienced strange encounters. And as the stories unfolded, Jess stepped forward with her own account, adding even more credibility to the investigation.
Jess has been infinitely helpful with this week's expedition. She is actually rounding up witnesses by putting the word out in the Conservancy itself of people who have encountered strange things.
The team expressed their gratitude to everyone who had traveled to meet with them, acknowledging how much they appreciated their presence. Each guest had been invited because they had reportedly seen Sasquatches, either very close to the area or not far from it. The team hoped to learn more about the creature's behavior, especially during this time of year and in this part of the country.
Yeah, it's nice of you to come all the way out here to meet with us. We really do appreciate it. And of course, you've been invited because many of you have actually seen Sasquatches either very, very close to here or not too far away. And we want to learn a little bit more about what the Bigfoots are doing, particularly at this time of year in this part of the country.
The first man to share his encounter was Josh Wilson, accompanied by his son, Caleb. They had gone outside to bring in their 2 dogs and began clapping to call them over. As soon as they did, they heard distinct wood knocks coming from the woods behind their house. In the darkness, they could make out a shadowy figure moving back and forth. The sound was no more than 10 yards away. Then, they noticed something even more startling. A massive footprint pressed into the sand right there in front of them.
My name's Josh Wilson, and this is my son Caleb. We have 2 dogs outside, and we've gone out to bring them in, and we started clapping for them, and when we did that, we heard wood knocks in the woods behind our house. And we could see something shadowy moving, kind of like back and forth.
This noise was only about 10 yards from where we were standing. Next major thing that we noticed was right in the sand, there's a huge footprint just right there in the sand.
It all started on his very first hunting trip. He and his family had ventured into the woods only to be met with an eerie, unsettling silence. No wind rustling the leaves, not a single cricket chirping, nothing moving. Then, looming behind their tent, a tall, shadowy figure appeared. Its thick, stringy brown hair caught the faint light, and the creature's eyes bore into him, steady and unblinking, as if daring him to look away.
My first expedition ever hunting with my family. Off and on the day, you got that eerie quiet that you get in the woods where nothing's moving, no wind, no leaves are rustling, not even the crickets are chirping, it's just dead silence. Directly behind where our tent was set up at, there was a tall, shadowy figure standing there. It was brown, very long, stringy hair, but thick, eyes very piercing. It was like he never wanted to break eye contact.
The next morning, less than 10 yards from where they were camped, the same figure appeared. It began snapping branches and hurling objects toward the campsite, then suddenly fell silent. Somehow, the team managed to pack up an entire hunting camp for 16 people in under 20 minutes. And everyone was amazed by what they had just witnessed.
That next morning when I got up, less than 10 yards in front of us, there stood the same figure and just started breaking lances off, throwing stuff towards our camp, and then just let out loud. And then it just stopped. And it was dead silence. I don't know how we did it, but we packed an entire hunting camp for 16 people in less than 20 minutes.
Dude, that's the best thing I've heard in a long time. Dude, that's awesome.
It was early December, just after deer season, when Daryl Sestillo, a Virginia Bigfoot witness, paused on an old, long-abandoned, washed-out road, unsure which direction to take. That's when he saw it. A massive creature.
My story, it was after deer season, beginning of December. There's a old, washed out road that's no longer used anymore. And I stop and I'm contemplating like which way I'm gonna take it. And I see this huge, huge animal. And what caught my really attention is the massive width of the animal. I mean, it was like 2 widths of me.
The BFRO team was eager to hear Daryl's account. Cliff suspected it might be a Sasquatch, but he needed confirmation at the location. Daryl explained his story.
So is this the spot?
Yes, it is. I was coming down a 4-wheeler. Then I see this animal. I noticed reflection of the fur from the sun hitting it, and it was huge. That's when I decided to turn on my 4-wheeler and take off straight down the hill to get out.
The investigator found no issues with Daryl's story. Everything he described matched perfectly with accounts the investigator had heard from hundreds of witnesses over the years. In his mind, there was no doubt. Daryl had seen a Sasquatch. To him, the case was closed. "You saw a Sasquatch," he confirmed, leaving Daryl both relieved and amazed. Jess saw it. Daryl saw it.
I have no problem whatsoever with Daryl's story. Everything he says is exactly congruent with what I've heard from hundreds and hundreds of witnesses in the past. This guy saw a Sasquatch. There is zero doubt in my mind that he did. Case closed, man. You saw a Sasquatch.
Exactly.
So what do you think? Are these sightings coincidence or proof of something lurking in the woods? Comment your thoughts below. Footage courtesy Travel Channel. It was broad daylight when Mike's entire world shifted. He felt his body tremble uncontrollably, knees knocking, teeth chattering, even though the sun was high overhead. Frozen in place, he watched as a massive figure stepped into view, its thick jet-black glossy hair gleaming in the light. In that terrifying moment, Mike knew deep down that he wasn't looking at a person. He was staring at a Bigfoot.
I was shaking so bad. I mean, my knees were knocking, my teeth, and I was froze. The creature was hairy, black shiny hair, but I'm pretty sure it was a Bigfoot.
He recalled how the creature stood partially hidden behind a tree, watching him from no more than 15 yards away. Mike stared back, locked in a silent standoff. The tension was overwhelming, an encounter so intense it felt truly terrifying.
And so he's standing behind a tree, looking at me about 15 yards. And I'm looking at him, and it was terrible.
Mike remembered the creature's low, rumbling growl vibrating through the air. At one point, it seemed to lose its temper entirely, slamming its massive fist against the tree beside it. Boom! 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 Each strike echoed like a warning, leaving Mike frozen in fear.
He was growling. One time he got so mad at me, he started beating the tree with the sides of his fist. Boom, 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 you know.
He explained that when he looked through his scope, what stunned him most wasn't the creature's massive body. It was its face. Its features were unsettlingly human, and its eyes sent a jolt of fear through him. People often told him the size alone should have been terrifying, but Mike disagreed. It was the eyes, he said, cold, unnerving, almost otherworldly, that truly shook him to his core.
What I'm gonna do is look through my scope. He had like a human face.
The man recalled that just as he steadied himself and prepared to pull the trigger, the creature suddenly let out a roar, deep and powerful, like a lion echoing through the trees. Then, from nearly 100 yards to the north, another sound answered back, a sharp, piercing whistle, almost like the scream of a steam engine. Mike had heard that same whistle his whole life in the woods, always assuming it was just a bird. But in that moment, he realized it might have been something else entirely.
And as I was getting ready to pull the trigger, he let out a roar like a lion. About 100 yards to the north from him, a whistle come back, a shrill whistle, kind of like like a steam engine, you know. And I'd heard that whistle all my life in the woods, but I thought it was a bird.
Mike remembered that when he heard the second creature approaching, he knew he had to act. The situation felt life or death. Every step it took crushed the brush beneath its weight, moving with a deliberate, menacing force. Its approach was unmistakably hostile, each movement brimming with intent. It was clear the creature was determined to reach him.
You could tell whatever it was heavy because of the way it was cracking the brush coming. And it was coming in such a way, it was a hostile, mean way. You could tell it was trying to get there. And I just said, you know, these things they're everywhere. You know, I don't want to die.
Who is that?
I knew they'd overrun me.
He said that instinct took over. He just wanted to get out of there as fast as possible. He could already picture himself sprinting down the road toward his truck, ready to run without looking back. Fear had completely taken hold, and all he could think about was escaping.
I was running down that road fast I could, started running toward my truck. I was ready to run like I'll get out, you know, because I was scared.
He realized the creature was closing in, chasing him through the woods, only about 50 feet away. As he ran toward his truck, the creature flanked him on the left, moving with alarming speed and precision. His mind raced, not just with fear of the one behind him, but with the terrifying thought, where was the other one?
So here he comes. He's chasing me. And he's in the woods about 50 feet from me. We were running like that. I was running to my truck, and he was flanking me over to the left, and I was worried about the other one.
He knew these were intelligent creatures, far smarter than most people realized. It felt like the one chasing him was trying to get ahead and block his escape. Panic surged through him as he sprinted toward his truck. A terrifying thought hit him. He would have to stop, turn his back, and fumble for his keys. That, he feared, would be the moment the creature attacked, when he was exposed and vulnerable.
Yeah, these are some very smart, intelligent creatures. I think what he was trying to do, get ahead of me and cut me off.
Please! No, please!
I'm running up to my truck, and I get to thinking, you know, when I've got to stop, put the key in it, that's when he'll attack me, when I get my back to him. He'll probably come up and jump me.
He carried a high-powered .270 Remington rifle, yet in the presence of the creature, it felt like he was holding nothing more than a BB gun. The creature made its dominance clear, standing its ground as if to say, "I'm not afraid of you." After witnessing such raw power and fearlessness, one can't help but wonder, could this really have been a Bigfoot?
High-powered rifle. That creature, he made me feel like it was a BB gun, you know, and he let me know point blank, hey, I'm not afraid of you.
D-Max UK. The BFRO heads to Utah, uncovering over 60 years of Bigfoot reports in the local folklore archives. With fresh leads and eyewitness accounts ahead, the team hopes to pinpoint where the creature truly is. When the BFRO team met with Dr. Lin in the bright light of day, they realized they weren't just being handed old reports, they were stepping into a living archive of mystery. Spread before them were 53 Bigfoot accounts spanning from 1970 to 2000, essentially a 4-decade town hall of eyewitness testimony. Dr. Lin had even included additional stories not officially labeled as Bigfoot encounters, but describing ape-like figures, towering giants, strange footprints, and unexplained sightings deep in the forest.
Here we have 53. Bigfoot stories that have been gathered over the years, and it spans from 1970 to 2000. And I also pulled out stories that weren't classified specifically as Bigfoot, but that reference an ape man or a large giant or footprints that have been found or unexplained sightings in forests and stuff.
By reading these stories, we can even further narrow our search area. She's provided us stories that go back 60 years.
Bobo was on his way to meet Bryce, the recent college graduate who had spoken up during the town hall meeting. Bryce had been out hunting when he claimed to witness a Bigfoot, and what caught Bobo's attention most was the level of detail in his description. According to Bryce, he could clearly see the creature's muscle definition, something that strongly matched known Bigfoot characteristics.
I've hunted the other end a few times. This was about the second time I came here. I walked along this hillside here. All of a sudden I heard branches breaking and crashes coming from that ravine. And I put my binoculars up. I looked over there and I saw something black just cruising.
When the investigator asked Bryce how familiar he was with this part of the terrain, he admitted he had only ventured here a couple of times. On his second outing, as he moved along the hillside, a sudden eruption of snapping branches came from the ravine below. He lifted his binoculars to get a better look and froze. A tall, dark figure was gliding through the brush on two legs with surprising speed. It burst into a small clearing, crested the rise, and vanished into the tree line before he could process what he was seeing.
It came running through this brush and crashed into this clearing. Went over the top and was gone into the trees.
Yeah, I can see why.
Yeah.
And when I first saw my first Bigfoot, I was looking for it. That was overwhelming. So I can just imagine being a kid, not even really knowing about Bigfoot, also just see this giant, what he thinks is probably a monster, running faster than he's ever seen. And the distance it covered, it could have got to him in about 30 seconds.
Bobo realized no Olympic athlete could have navigated that rough terrain with such ease. Bryce, a trustworthy witness, described a massive figure, towering over him by at least a foot, heavily built, and moving through an area full of fresh animal tracks. There was no need to consider any other explanation. In the investigator's mind, it could only be a Sasquatch. Bigfoot was the only possible answer.
An Olympic athlete couldn't run across that. I wish we'd have got that report right away, because with all that thistle and devil's club down in there had to be Bigfoot hair everywhere through there where it ran. There had to be.
The BFRO team had traveled to Utah in search of Bigfoot. Along the way, they uncovered a remarkable number of eyewitness reports, including one from Joe, a snowplow driver who had witnessed something extraordinary while clearing a canyon road. He had turned and locked eyes with the observer, and the connection was undeniable. It felt as though Joe was looking directly into their very soul.
He turned and looked right at me, and I could see his eyes. I mean, it was like he was looking right in my eyes. He kept on going, and I kept on going, and by the time I got to Tony Grove, I started thinking about what I really saw.
Joe continued on, and the observer followed, and by the time they reached Tony Grove, he began to replay the encounter in his mind. Questions surfaced. What color was the fur? What details stood out? What did the creature look like up close? Joe recalled it as primarily a medium brown, though interspersed with hints of other shades, and the hair had been long and flowing.
What color was the fur? What did you see in the fur color?
It was probably a medium brown.
Okay.
It was actually kind of different colors, but the main color was a medium brown, real long hair.
Joe noticed not only the size of the individual, but he also was fortunate enough to count the steps that it took as it crossed the road.
The team decided to recreate the moment by having Bobo attempt to cross the same stretch of road in 4 steps or less. "All right, hit it," they said. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. "Need bigger steps than that," they joked. Turning to Joe, they asked how the size compared. He replied, "You're tiny compared to what I saw." That figure was easily a foot taller than Bobo. He recalled the moment vividly. When the creature had turned, it had been eye level with him, a direct and unforgettable gaze.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Got to take bigger steps than that.
Hey, Joe, how did I look size-wise?
You're tiny compared to him. What I saw is about maybe a foot higher than what Bobo is.
Joe saw a figure that was a foot taller than Bobo that cleared the highway in 2 less steps. If Sasquatch are real, why would it step out in front of a snowplow?
Joe described seeing a figure at least a foot taller than Bobo, clearing the highway in 2 fewer steps. If Sasquatches were real, he wondered, why would one step directly in front of a snowplow? During the recreation, Bobo was positioned to represent the figure, and Joe confirmed that what he saw could only have been a Sasquatch. It completely ruled out a person. Even compared to Bobo, this thing was enormous, Joe recalled. There's no way it could have been human. On October 23, 2023, 2 fishermen had a shocking, up-close encounter with a Sasquatch deep in the Ozarks. Listen to the incredible account from the primary witness as he reveals the exact spot where the creature stood. Before sunrise on a quiet October morning, Blake, the Bigfoot witness, and his companion slipped out of the house, eager for a day of fishing. The forest was still, cloaked in darkness as they reached the river, their headlamps cutting through the shadows. While unloading their gear, a strange sound shattered the silence. Footsteps, distant yet unnervingly loud, echoing through the crisp morning air. Blake froze, a chill running down his spine.
So, just normal morning. We were probably left the house at, 5 o'clock maybe in the morning, and, get down here. No one's down here. Completely dark. We got our headlamps on. We start putting all of our stuff and loading it down to the river and getting ready to start fishing. We're super excited. And we're just hearing, we're hearing walking far away, but it's so super loud.
Blake's father-in-law listened carefully and remarked that it sounded like a bear. He knew the land well and was familiar with the wildlife that moved through it. Blake had spent plenty of time out there himself, hearing all sorts of animals from deer to smaller critters, but this was different. Whatever was moving out there was big. Or there was more than one. The sounds came from deep within the woods, a solid 5 to 10 minutes walk from where they stood. At first, Blake didn't think much of it. The area was full of wildlife, and strange noises were nothing new. But something about the weight and rhythm of those footsteps lingered in his mind.
Says, that sounds like a bear, and there's a bear on his land, like he knows, and I'm out here a lot, and I hear all kinds of stuff, and it did, you can just tell, like, some of the deer, and this thing was big, or there was multiple things, right? So, you're talking like, a good 5-10 minute walk in from here. We're hearing this. I'm not thinking anything about it because, there's a lot of animals here.
Involved me, my stepdad, coming across the den that was dug out under the side of a dry river embankment. I seen footprints in the mud. They were around 16 to 19 inches in length each. My stepdad blew it off. I knew better and reminded him of what I saw in Montana. He said it wasn't real. I instantly started scanning the trees, which were sparse, and sure enough, I spotted an all-black one from about 80 to 90 yards away, swaying from behind a tree. Needless to say, my stepdad then just become a believer.
The noises grew louder and more insistent, echoing through the still morning air. Blake and his companions sat frozen, half smiling, trying to make sense of what was happening. Then, suddenly, a massive rock exploded against the ground just to their right, crashing with a deafening impact. At first, Blake wondered aloud if it was a fish, but his companion shook his head. It was a rock. Shining his light, they saw it clearly, swirled into the dirt, unmistakably thrown with deliberate force.
On October 23rd, 2023, 2 fishermen encountered something unbelievable right here on this very spot. It came out of these trees right here.
The Ozarks, a lush landscape spanning from Oklahoma through North Arkansas and into Missouri.
As Blake moved forward, his father-in-law followed close behind, keeping to his right. When Blake climbed up the rise ahead, he lifted his light and scanned the darkness, his rifle already drawn. That's when he saw them, one pair of eyes shining back at him from the brush. At first, he thought it might be some stranger lurking in the woods, but as he stepped closer, another pair of eyes appeared. Larger, higher, and far more unsettling than the first.
The noises just keep getting louder and louder and louder, and we're just both sitting there just kind of smiling and like looking to see what this is. And man, we're just sitting there, and he's like right on the right side, and a huge rock just gets boom and just smashes right over to the right side of him. And I mean, like I said, well, I even said first, I said, dang, was that a fish, you know? And he goes, no, that's a rock. And he had his light, and he shined, and you could see where the rock was and how it was just like swirled out, and you could see that there was a rock that has been thrown.
Their eyes, and I witnessed that there for the first time. And I've seen it since then at least a dozen times. So they have the ability to internally illuminate their eyes to glow, but they can also, like, sounds crazy, I know, and until you witness it for yourself.
Blake watched as a massive, hair-covered figure suddenly dropped down in front of him, its huge frame folding into the brush. Its eyes were wide open, glowing in the beam of his light, and he could hear its heavy, ragged breathing. For a moment, it just crouched there. Then it snapped its head toward him, paused, and exploded upward, crashing through the trail with incredible force. Blake spun toward his father-in-law, disbelief in his voice as he asked, "Did you see that? Are you seeing this?" But the older man stood frozen, unable to move or speak.
And like he starts following me, and he's over here, and then I'm coming up, and then when I start coming up to here, like I start seeing a set of eyes with, you know, I have like my light and everything, and I have my gun out, and I start seeing a set of eyes in here, and I'm thinking this is gonna be some crazy person, you know? And I get about right here, and I see another set of huge eyes right there.
Bigfoot about 10 feet tall, and he had some cover, and he's watching all these people in the boat across here. And I start yelling at Jenny to pull over because I see a Bigfoot, and I'm grabbing the camera. He's probably about straight across from us where we're at right now, watching the people in the boat. So Jenny starts pulling over.
Shaken, Blake immediately called his wife, struggling to put into words what he had just witnessed. He told her they had seen something unbelievable, something real. The creature wasn't a shadow or a trick of the light. It was massive, standing an estimated 7 feet tall and weighing 500 to 600 pounds, fully visible right there in front of him.
I called my wife and was just like, we just seen some crazy, unbelievable stuff. I mean, this was a real thing. It was huge. Like, I'm talking 7 feet, 500-600 pounds. Like, it is full view, like right there.
During the recreation, Blake explained that the creature had risen somewhere within the thicker brush ahead, taller and more filled out than anything naturally blending into the surrounding foliage. The first thing he noticed as he descended the slope were its eyes, positioned roughly at the height he pointed out. Then the creature stepped forward. Blake indicated the exact spot where its foot came down, the ground still showing where the weight had pressed in. From there, it exhaled sharply, pivoted, and in one powerful motion launched itself up the trail, crashing through the brush with explosive force.
This thing is definitely, like, this stuff was more filled out, but this thing's definitely up and into here, right? Mm-hmm. As it stood up. But the first thing I see when I start coming down is his eyes about right here. And then this thing stepped forward, and this is where I took, and this is where the foot went down, and it goes, and then just boom, and then turns, and then just starts going straight up, bam, and just crashing through there.
Blake shook his head, still stunned as he tried to explain what happened. It was unbelievable, he said, but he knew exactly what he had seen right there in front of him. Whether people chose to believe him or not didn't matter. This was his experience, his truth, and others could accept it or dismiss it. That was entirely on them. Nestled on the flanks of Mount Hood in the Cascades, Todd calls Welch's Oregon home. A recently retired Army veteran with over 20 years of service, he is now dedicating his time to his true passion, Bigfoot research. As both an experiencer and investigator, Todd is eager to delve deeper into the mysteries of these elusive creatures.
I'm Todd Neese. I live in Welches, Oregon, on the flanks of Mount Hood in the Cascades. Recently retired from the Army after a little over 20 years, and enjoying that, and hope that it'll give me more time to get involved in my research.
The day was bright and clear as Todd drove along. The window rolled down. He often hunted this region for deer and elk, watching carefully for any sign of wildlife. But on this occasion, what he noticed went far beyond his usual expectations. Rounding a bend in the trail, the underbrush opened up, revealing an unobstructed view of the second blast site.
It was a beautiful day, and I had the window unzipped, and I frequently hunted that area for deer and elk, so that's what I'm doing. I'm looking around for any kind of wildlife I could see, but what I saw was a lot more than I asked for. As we rounded this one corner, the brush cleared away, and I had a direct line of sight to the second blast site.
As they rounded the corner, Todd looked down and spotted three massive, dark figures standing closely together. They were positioned across the ravine, watching as he made his way down the road. At first, he assumed they were people. Civilians shouldn't have been in the area. But in less than a second, he realized these were not humans. The figures were upright on two legs, unlike anything he had ever seen.
We came around that corner, I'm looking down there, and there's like these three very dark, very large figures standing three abreast of each other, watching us come down the road across the ravine from them. And my first thought was, what are those people doing down there? There's not supposed to be civilians in the area, you know. But it took less than a second for me to realize what I was looking at were not people at all. Yeah, they were standing up on two legs.
The creature's arms hung far below their knees, much longer than normal. Their legs were long too, and their bodies were strong and fit, with broad shoulders, wide chests, and narrow waists. But what surprised Todd the most were their arms, stretching way past their knees.
Distinction became very clear. The arms of these things went well below their knees. Just unbelievably long arms, as well as the legs were quite long as well. These things looked like bodybuilders. All three of them were very fit, I guess. I mean, very broad shoulders, barreled chest, tapered waist. But it was just what got me was those arms went so far down below their knees.
As Todd's eyes adjusted to the scene before him, he realized the figure in the middle towered around 9 feet tall. Flanking it on either side were two others, roughly 7.5 to 8 feet, their heads barely reaching the tallest one's shoulders. None of them were small, but one striking detail made Todd certain he was witnessing a Bigfoot. Until that moment, he had never studied the subject or shown interest in the mystery, even growing up in the Pacific Northwest. But now, everything changed.
The one in the middle was, I would estimate, about 9 feet in height. And the two that flanked it, left and right, were probably 7.5 to 8 feet. They came up to about the shoulder of the biggest one. None of them small by any means. But here's a really interesting trait that it made me convinced that what I was seeing was Bigfoot. And I never really studied the subject, wasn't even interested in the mystery of Bigfoot, even growing up here in the Pacific Northwest, you know. But
Todd stood frozen, trying to make sense of what he had just seen. The experience was breathtaking, yet terrifying, an impossible sight that left him questioning reality itself. What would you do if you saw something like this? Drop your theory in the comments. Footage courtesy Salish Sasquatch. In the bright light of day, the visitors noticed something unusual on the ridge. The team often called it the creeping approach, a tactic Sasquatch frequently used on the property. The creatures would spread out, moving silently as they got closer. On a hill across from them, a witness, who wished to remain anonymous, saw 3 Sasquatch. Just 3 weeks ago, he recalled, these 3 had carried out the same approach with precise coordination.
I mention often something we call Sasquatch creepin', an approach tactic they use often at our property. They spread out, communicating as they draw closer. The following event occurred on a hill that faces another hill where Wes Germer saw 3 Sasquatch. Though the witness did not want to be identified, here he is to recall an event from just 3 weeks ago that involved 3 individuals.
Bart Coutinho moved cautiously through the sun-dappled forest, the quiet broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves. At first, he thought it was just the wind, but he realized something far smarter was at work. These creatures were masters of misdirection. One would circle around a tree line, drawing his gaze with a sudden noise, while the other slipped away silently. In that very spot, he wouldn't hear a thing. The forest seemed ordinary, but Bart knew it was anything.
So yeah, no, they're masters of subterfuge, using misdirection. You hear one kind of come around a tree line and will create, if your attention is directed that way, the other one will make a noise, misdirect you this way. In the meantime, this one quietly has moved off and you're not going to hear anything in that exact same spot. It's like clockwork.
In 2011, Russ Lockram and his son were watching a program, likely on the History Channel, about the Patterson-Gimlin film. As they watched, he mentioned that they didn't live far from Bluff Creek and suggested they visit the area the following summer. Curious, Russ began looking into it further and came across a BFRO expedition that was scheduled to take place at Bluff Creek in 2012.
My son and I were watching History Channel or something, and there was a show about the Patterson-Gimlin film. And so as we're watching the show, I made the comment to him and I said, hey, I go, we're not really that far from Bluff Creek. I go, we should go down there next summer. And so I started looking a little further and came across a BFRO expedition that was going to be down at Bluff Creek in 2012.
It happened on a quiet night deep in the mountains, somewhere between Mount St. Helens and Mount Rainier. The forest was completely still, and the only light came from the faint glow of the moon against the tent walls. He woke suddenly, sensing something was off. Then he heard it, the zipper on the fly of his tent sliding up and down. Zip, zip, zip. The sound was steady, deliberate, and close enough to make his heart race. For 2 or 3 minutes, the zipper kept moving, as if someone, or something, was testing it. In that moment, lying perfectly still inside the thin fabric of the tent, he realized this was one of the strangest and most unnerving experiences he'd ever had.
One time we were camped kind of up between Mount St. Helens and Mount Rainier, and woke up in the middle of the night, and the zipper on the fly of my tent was going up and down. And it was just a zip, 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 zip. And, it probably went on for, 2-3 minutes with just the zipper on my fly going up and down. So that was a pretty strange thing that happened.
Another memorable incident occurred a few years ago while they were camping in the Upper Clackamas. He was sleeping in the back of his truck, while 2 others were camped nearby in a tent. Shortly before sunrise, they all woke to an unusual sound. From 2 different directions came the sharp, rhythmic clacking of rocks, and from a third direction came a series of wood knocks. The sounds continued for several minutes, echoing through the still morning air and leaving the group silently listening, unsure what was out there.
The other really good incident we had was we were camped up in the Upper Clackamas a few years ago, and I was camped in the back of my truck. A couple of guys were camped in a tent, and we woke up shortly before sunrise and we heard rock clacking coming from 2 different directions and wood knocking coming from a third. And this went on for several minutes.
The third incident he experienced was perhaps the strangest. He had been camping in the Oregon Coast Range, deep in the Tillamook State Forest. In the middle of the night, he woke to the unsettling feeling of something touching the back of his leg. He was sleeping on a cot inside his tent, positioned close to the rear wall. At first, he thought someone had entered the tent, so he quickly turned around, but no one was there. The tent was empty. He couldn't say for sure what had caused it. It might have been a bear pressing its nose against the fabric, or something else entirely. Whatever it was, it certainly got his attention. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another encounter. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear what you think. The YouTube channel, The Trek Planner, is usually known for calm, solo explorations of forgotten trails and historic landmarks. No jump scares, no creatures, just quiet footage of America's hidden places. But for this project, the creator chose something different. Simple stock-style drone footage of untouched forest scenery. Calm, peaceful, predictable, or so it seemed. The location was Farmington Canyon, deep in northern Utah, a place famous for its towering cliffs, thick pine forests, and narrow, winding trails. Beautiful by day, isolated by night. The drone had already been in the air for nearly an hour. The footage looked perfect. Smooth passes over treetops, long shadows stretching across the canyon floor. Nothing unusual, until the final flight. That's when it happened.
A while back, I was flying my drone to get stock footage of forest scenery. I spent about an hour flying my drone, and when I was doing my last flight for the day, I saw something really weird fly by my drone.
Something fast, violently fast, shot straight toward the drone. At first glance, it looked like a bird, maybe an eagle, maybe a large insect. But when the footage was reviewed at home, the theory fell apart. The object wasn't flapping, it wasn't drifting. It was flat, solid, and it moved with force. It didn't fly toward the drone, it was thrown.
Did you see it? I didn't think too much of it until I got home and was reviewing the footage again. In closer inspection, there is this odd object, flying very fast next to my drone. I have no idea what it is. It looks long and flat, and it was flying very fast upward. It doesn't appear to be a bird or insect.
And that raises a terrifying question. Who or what could throw something that high? The drone was far above the tree line. No animal could reach it. No human was anywhere nearby. Yet something below had reacted to being watched. Reports from Utah's wilderness speak of stones hurled from the woods, of warning knocks, of creatures that don't like surveillance. So what struck the drone that day? Wildlife, or something that didn't want to be seen? Have you ever seen drone footage of a Bigfoot in Idaho? If not, this might be one of the most subtle and unsettling captures yet. The video was uploaded by a channel known as Pararational. And at first, there's nothing unusual about it. Wide open land, a quiet stretch of southern Idaho scenery. The drone floats smoothly over fields and dirt roads, recording what looks like just another peaceful day from above. Nothing feels out of place. Until the camera pans. Mid-screen, barely noticeable at first, a tiny dark dot suddenly appears, moving fast. Too fast. The operator seems to notice it at the same time we do, and quickly begins to zoom in.
Starts off pretty normally, but as we pan across the scenery, you will see mid-screen a very small dot running across the field. As we continue to watch it, apparently the operators noticed it and started focusing in. You'll see just crossed the road and is headed for that clump of trees.
The dot grows clearer as it races across the open field with surprising speed. Whatever it isn't wandering. It's running with intent. Seconds later, the figure reaches the road, crosses it without slowing down, and heads straight for a thick clump of trees on the far side. Just before fully entering the tree line, its silhouette becomes visible enough to raise questions. Upright, long strides.
To me, it appears to be a biped. And then let's pause as it goes to cross the road. Looking at that track, I would say it is probably about 10 feet wide, and it clears it in 2 steps. This really isn't that fantastic of a feat, as I'm about 6'5" and can do the same thing. But it is running at a fairly good clip through light brush.
Then, just like that, it disappears into the woods. So what did we actually witness? It's small on screen, hard to define, but the movement isn't random, it's deliberate, and that's what makes this footage so compelling. Whether this was a Bigfoot or something else entirely remains unknown. Now, it's your turn. Take another look at the footage and tell us what you see. Meet Rob, the quiet adventurer behind the YouTube channel Rob Nixon. This time, he uploaded one of the most controversial drone clips we've seen in a long while. Some viewers dismissed it instantly, calling it a man in a suit, a perfectly timed prank. Others believe it may be one of the most convincing pieces of modern Bigfoot footage ever recorded. But today, we're not here to decide that for you. We're here to show you exactly what happened, and let you decide what you're looking at. Rob wasn't chasing legends that day. He wasn't hunting for monsters. He was just searching for a new fishing spot, somewhere quiet, somewhere untouched, a place to sit beside the water and disappear for a few hours. He launched his drone for a simple aerial view of the lake and shoreline, hoping to spot a promising inlet. The sky was gray and still, the trees swayed gently, the water didn't ripple, everything felt perfectly ordinary. And then, something moved. It happened at the edge of the screen, just a flicker at first. A shift so subtle that Rob barely noticed it while flying. He glanced down at the controller in his hands, struggling to see clearly through the glare on his phone. Shadows, he thought. Maybe light cutting through the trees. Nothing worth worrying about. He brought the drone back in, never thinking twice about it. Until later. That night, reviewing the footage in full resolution, something caught his eye. Frame by frame, he slowed it down, zoomed in, enhanced the image, and there it was, standing at the far edge of the tree line across the lake. Tall, upright, moving on 2 legs, not running, not hiding, just walking. Slow, steady, and deliberate. Dark fur covered its body, no clothing, no gear, no sign of anything human about it. It stepped out from behind the trees, followed the forest line for several seconds, and then disappeared back into the woods. This wasn't a hiking trail. There were no vehicles, no camps, no roads nearby for miles. This was deep wilderness, remote northern Maine, the kind of place where if something is watching you, you'd never know it. And that realization hit Rob hard. He hadn't been alone out there, not really. What makes this footage different is its calmness. No shaking camera, no screaming, no dramatic chase, just a quiet drone flight and a silent figure moving through the trees. Northern Maine already carries a long history of Bigfoot reports from hunters, loggers, and hikers. Stories of tall, bipedal creatures slipping through the forest and vanishing without a trace. So now we leave the question with you. Was this just a trick of distance and shadow? A person where no one should be, or something far older, caught moving through the wilderness for just a few seconds on camera? highlighting every detail and offering honest analysis. This time, he's looking at a piece of footage that might just be one of the earliest drone sightings of a possible Bigfoot ever recorded. The location: Salt Fork Park, Ohio, a place with a long history of strange encounters and whispered legends. The video begins simply. A drone pilot is flying his tricopter through the woods back when drones were still a novelty. He's clearly skilled. You can see it in the way he maneuvers between the trees, circling trunks, hovering just inches from the branches, never losing control. He's showing off, and he's doing a remarkable job. But what he doesn't realize is that his camera has captured something far more interesting than his flying skills. As the drone glides low near the trees, a dark figure emerges, standing perfectly still, just off in the distance. It doesn't move, doesn't react. It simply watches. It's tall, covered in black, dark fur, and it stands upright, like a person, confident, silent, and unshakable.
Go through the goalpost there, and he's showing off his skills on this run, doing a little circle around that tree, comes back out to back where he's at, turns it around.
To make the shape clearer, a spotlight was added later in the video, because if you weren't looking closely, you might miss it entirely. But once you see it, you cannot unsee it.
Don't you know when our pilot sees this, or if he sees this, he'll be wanting to rig his tricopter with the spotlight? Okay, we're coming around. And we've locked in on our target. And there.
Some viewers argue it's a man in a costume. Others claim it's a trick of light, shadows, or perspective. But others believe this is a genuine Sasquatch captured by accident on a drone flight. At the time, no one noticed it, not even the pilot. Only upon reviewing the footage did the figure come into view. Now, it's up to you to decide. Is it a hoax, a guy in a monkey suit, or one of the first drone captures of something still unexplained? Watch closely, examine its shape, study its stance, feel its presence, then leave your thoughts in the comments. Because deep in Salt Fork Park, legends are not just stories, they move silently through the trees. And sometimes, if you're paying attention, they let you see them. The YouTube channel Papa Jake is usually known for its fast-paced humor, over-the-top challenges, and playful chaos. But this time, Jake decided to try something completely different. He brought along his friend Logan for what was supposed to be a light-hearted nighttime adventure in the forest. The plan was simple: capture some atmospheric drone footage, maybe stumble across a strange sound or a broken branch, and head home with a fun video. Bigfoot was more of a joke than a goal, at least that's what they thought. What began as casual exploration slowly shifted into something far darker. The cold that day was brutal. The kind that bites through gloves and numbs your hands within minutes.
Should be down the creek
somewhere
bed.
Over there.
Yeah. Now the only good thing about this cold is it'll make traveling a lot quicker. We can actually travel directly down the creek bed. If you guys remember in the last video, this was all water flowing extremely fast. Now, it's like our own little personal walkway. Okay. Guys, this is so cold. This is probably the coldest we've ever done a video in. Hopefully the equipment, including the camera that we're filming with, can sustain this type of temperature.
Still, they pushed deeper into the woods, scanning the ground and trees for anything unusual. That's when Jake stopped. On the forest floor, pressed deep into the frozen dirt, was a massive footprint, perfectly shaped, far too large to ignore. He carefully collected a cast to examine later, still half laughing, half unsettled.
It's just down there. Wait, yeah, here. Check it out. It's the mold. Right here. Yeah, that thing's rock hard. Okay, let's get this thing out of here. Okay, let's get the mold and get out. Maybe get some drone footage, search for that nest, and then we'll get back home and have some cocoa and hopefully never come back here because this is gonna be a bear footprint or something.
Once we found the mold, I started clearing the dirt around it. I had to carefully make sure that I was able to lift it up and remove it from the ground without it breaking. Unfortunately, it was covered in dirt.
There's too much mud on it to really see. We'll have to wait till we get home and clear it off. Okay, I got it though, it's bagged. We'll analyze it when we get home.
They planned to leave before dark, but the forest has a way of stealing time. As the last light faded, Jake sent the drone up one final time. At first, the screen showed nothing but shadows and treetops swaying in the wind. Then, without warning, a tall figure entered the frame, upright, moving smoothly between the trees. Not close, but close enough to make out its shape. Jake and Logan froze. Neither waited for confirmation. They turned and ran.
All right, so I got a visual on us from below. Oh, hey. Okay, now what we need to do is get over a couple miles to the west. That's where we last saw Bigfoot. Well, what we think was Bigfoot. Logan, check this out. I've got some sort of, it looks like a brick, like almost like a cave or something, just along the creek bed, farther than we've ever traveled towards where we last saw Bigfoot. Look at that thing. Can you get any closer? I've got like really weak signal. I can't even, I can't see it. I'm flying off the camera. Look how laggy this thing is. Okay, I don't want to get too close, guys. We might lose the drone and we'll lose all this footage.
We should get an aerial shot of it.
Yeah, you're right. Dude, look, there's too many trees. I can't push farther.
After not being able to get closer to the cave, we took the drone up and got an aerial shot of the surrounding area. I started looking around, scanning the forest for any type of movement. As I was moving back and forth, we were almost out of battery with about 3 minutes of flight time left. And that's when I saw this.
Wait, Logan, do you see that? Do you see that?
What is that, Jake?
Oh, I think that might be Bigfoot. I think that might be Bigfoot. Look, I gotta get the drone back. We gotta get out of here right now.
Later, back home, the footage revealed even more. The drone's thermal camera showed a large heat signature moving on 2 legs, right where they'd been standing. Whatever it was warm. It was alive. And it wasn't walking on 4 legs like any ordinary animal. A person, or something else entirely.
I don't know what that is, dude. Like, it could be a person, but they would have been like, oh, hey, guys. As I was moving back and forth, we were almost out of battery with about 3 minutes of flight time left. And that's when I saw this.
This is the first time we used thermal, and I think right here you can see something in the bush.
Yeah, right there. Hold it, pause it. Look at this. It's gonna move. Wait. So I think right now it's crouched down. I think it's crouching, and then I think it gets scared maybe. And
you can kind of see it.
You can see it. Like something's crouching right there. And then look at this. Once we're filming, and then it'll move. It moves. See, look, see the movement?
Right there.
See that's movement. Okay, right there. Look at that. That's 2 feet. I don't know what that is. That's 2 feet, Logan. That is not a giant raccoon. That is not a wolf. It could be a bear. I don't know.
Jake went into the woods chasing an idea, a myth, a joke. But what came back with him was evidence he still can't explain. Watch the thermal footage carefully, slow it down, and ask yourself, if that figure appeared on your screen, would you run too? This next encounter isn't your average blurry clip pulled from a shaky handheld camera. It's not a hiker whispering behind a tree or a backyard trail cam glitching in the dark. This is something else entirely. Something precise. Something advanced. The team from DMAX UK had a single objective: to capture real, undeniable evidence from one of the most active and disturbing forest regions on their investigation list. Local legends had followed these woods for decades. Too many encounters, too many disappearances of livestock, too many witnesses describing the same towering shape moving through the trees. The stories didn't match perfectly, but the fear always did. And this time, the team came prepared.
The drone team should be arriving at the location right about now. I'm heading out to coordinate with them. Given the rough and dense terrain that surrounds this area and the head start that this creature already has, I knew we needed a technological advantage. Time is running out. It's time to bust out the big guns.
They launched one of the most sophisticated aerial surveillance tools available, the Autel Dragonfish. This wasn't a hobby drone. This was a high-end reconnaissance platform equipped with 3 advanced systems: a wide-angle camera for full-terrain scanning, a 20 times optical zoom capable of pulling color detail from over 800 feet away, and the crown jewel, a military-grade thermal imaging unit designed to detect even the faintest body heat beneath dense forest cover.
Hey, John.
Hey, Bryce. What we have here is the Autel Dragonfish. Primarily, we're doing overwatch, search and rescue, any type of apprehension.
This fixed-wing drone is equipped with 3 different types of cameras. A wide-angle lens, giving us a complete overview of the search area. A 20 times optical zoom lens, which can determine the color of someone's hair from 800 feet in the air. And lastly, a thermal camera, which picks up any kind of heat signature. There's no way anything is escaping us now.
As the sun dipped behind the tree line, the drone lifted into the air. Below, the forest stretched out in silence, dark and unmoving. For several minutes, the live feed showed nothing unusual. Then, something shifted. On the thermal display, a bright heat signature burst into view. Humanoid in shape, upright and running, not stumbling, not wandering. Running with speed and control that sent a jolt through the command station. The team scrambled to track it. They switched to the standard camera. Nothing. Back to thermal. There it was again, cutting between trees at impossible speed. Seconds later, it vanished, gone without sound.
Oh, wow. Whatever it is, it's moving pretty fast.
Yep, absolutely.
It's gone now.
Can you go to the regular lens? Nothing.
Lost it in the woods.
Maria, Russ, this is Bryce. You guys copy?
What do you have, Bryce?
Hey, we're catching something here on the drone in the thermal. It looks humanoid in shape. Whatever it was walking.
Are you serious?
It looks like it's about a few miles up from where you guys are right now. Oh, it's moving right now.
If it has that far of a lead on us, it may take us a while to catch up.
What unsettled them even more came hours later. After nightfall, the team entered the exact location where the heat signature had last appeared. Flashlights swept across dirt and brush. Then they saw it. Bones. Clean. Fresh. No blood. No signs of struggle. Just fragments scattered beneath the leaves. Whatever had fed here hadn't been sloppy. And it hadn't been long gone. From that moment on, the operation changed.
Did you see anything come through here?
I found what looked like some footprints that were heading up there. I say we keep on moving because it looks like they're fresh.
Let's do it.
All right. It looks like it's starting to clear up over here.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Oh, wow.
All matted down. Been coming in and out through this.
Oh, wow.
All clear.
Yeah?
Snow right there.
Should we check it for tracks?
Let's do it, yeah.
I mean, the great thing about having snow around here is if something steps through it, it's gonna leave a pretty good track, right?
Absolutely.
Dude,
this is fresh, man.
I'd say so.
This was no longer a strange figure on a screen. This was a predator. Something living. Something fast. Something intelligent enough to erase its own trail. So what did the drone really capture? A flesh and blood Bigfoot? A cryptid that doesn't want to be found? Or something far more dangerous? Something that hunts, disappears, and leaves only questions behind? Because if that thing could outrun a military reconnaissance drone, what chance would you have on foot? 6 unbelievable Bigfoot encounters, each one more chilling than the last. From shadowy figures in the daylight to strange sounds in the dead of night, the witnesses' experiences leave one question. What really lurks in the forests of North America? Comment below. Which encounter do you think was the most real? Could Bigfoot be out there?